Hello everybody, I'm back with another video, finally. I'm sorry it's been so long, but I've been dealing with some illness and I'm on the road to mending some now, so hopefully I can get more videos kicked out for you. This one is called, What is Sheol? The answer will shock you. This is probably the most important video I've ever done. Why do I say that? Because not seeing this is a fatal a very fatal problem. It's like it hinges your eternity and everything. It's just very important. I hope that people won't get upset and turn off the video after the first couple of slides. I hope you will wait it out and see the whole thing, because unless you see everything, you're not going to understand the gravity of what I'm talking about. It's not a video that you're going to be able to just, watch it real quick and be done with it. It's like you're going to need to pause and really look at the screens, look at what I have up there, and then discern for yourself. Go do your research too. This is very, very important. Scriptures are like a puzzle, and the pieces do fit when they're placed correctly. I would say the same with the words. If the words aren't placed correctly, then it's not going to fit either. And we have had scriptures without the appropriate words. I'm going to prove this to you, that we've had a big error, and I think it was intentional. Sheol. This is what we think of when we think of Sheol. We think of this place down below, dark, the pit, a horrible place, death, the grave. That is our mental picture of what Sheol is. Numbers 16:30. But if Yahuwah creates what is unheard of, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up with all that belongs to them, then they go down alive to, and we've been told, Sheol. This word is actually Saul. Then you shall know that these men have scorned Yahuwah. Very important statement. Why would going to Saul mean they have scorned Yahuwah? We're going to find out. If you read ancient Hebrew, what would you really read if you were reading the Old Testament? Grave in Hebrew, look at that word carefully. This is a pretty long word. I mean, it's got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 letters. And then look at hell. Hell also has 6 letters. And then you have Saul. And what we've been told is Sheol. And it's like, they only have 4 letters. So why are they translating Saul as grave, hell, and Sheol? We're going to find that out too. Grave in Hebrew is not Sheol. It's Geber. Means grave or scepter. And you can see here in the interlinearies, Gabaru is the barriers. And then look at the word compared to Saul down here. Totally different word. Even the root word, Gabar, to bury, doesn't look anything like Saul. The vowel points were added. And we're told this is to make another word, like from Sheol to Saul. But look at the words. They're the same word. The Bible was not written with vowel points. I'm sorry, but it wasn't. The scriptures were written in ancient Hebrew or Paleo-Hebrew. And that was on rock, and that would have been the one you see above, like in the little square that says Saul, and it's got the number 7586. That would be the top row, the little lamed, the one that starts with the little staff-looking thing. That is your paleo. So, what happened? Why change the word? There's no difference in Saul in ancient Hebrew, which is the Old Testament was written in. Look at the Strong's numbers. They've got 7586 and 7585, and they've got 7586 as Saul. Then they changed the vowel points, and they got 7585 as hell translated. But it's the exact identical word. And vowel points were placed in order to help with pronunciation. They are not there to change what the word means. And if you go to, I pulled this Associated Bible Names thing off of abrampublications.com, and go look up Sheol. They'll say that the scholars are stumped and they don't know what to make of it. Well, I know what to make of it. It's been a deception is what it is, because a word is a word in ancient Hebrew, and you don't change it, and you don't put dots around it and decide it's a different word just because you want to. It's like it means what it means. $70.80, big time, big year. Let's look at the scripts. We have 4 main scriptural scripts that we see through history. We have the hieroglyphic Hebrew, then we have the Paleo Hebrew, then we have the Aramaic Hebrew, and then the 4th one is the Masoretic Hebrew. Now look at the dates. 70 AD, we have the start of the vowel points. Why? That is the big question. I contend that 70 AD, a lot of things changed. We had the temple defiled. You can read Acts 21 on that. The temple destroyed. The calendar was changed. The vowel points were added and the word meanings were changed. The genealogies in Genesis were changed. And Yeshua's message was changed. So, it's a big time, 70 AD. This is when it all started. The Hebrew Sefer, also known as the Tanakh, consisted of 39 books. Hebrew, in the Hebrew Bible, may refer to either the Hebrew language or to the Hebrew people, who historically used Hebrew as a spoken language, and have continuously used the language in prayer and study, or both. The texts mainly were written in Hebrew, and some portions notably, like Daniel and Ezra, in Aramaic. Biblical Hebrew, sometimes called Classical Hebrew, is an archaic form of the Hebrew language. The scripts were written in this form or on stones in Paleo Hebrew. When vowel points are added to the words, it changed the way the words sounded and sometimes the meanings of the word, which it shouldn't have done. This is the word Saul from H7585. I wanted you to see it with vowel points and without. If you look down here at the bottom of what I've got up here, it's like the first one is with the vowel points and the second one is without. So you basically got a couple of dots difference, or 3 dots difference between the two words, but it should not change the meaning. Okay, what I did for you to be able to see all this is I took the Blue Letter Bible website, which is one of the most trusted as far as looking at the words of the scriptures, and I went through and looked up every place that they had this in the King James Version. The translators of the King James Bible rendered the Hebrew word Saul, or Sheol, I guess is how you would really say Saul in Hebrew, which occurs 65 times in Scripture, and they translated it as grave, pit, and hell. Grave 31 times, pit 3 times, and hell 31 times. They translated Sheol as grave or pit when they thought it was meant to be a resting place for good people, but rendered the same word as hell when they thought it was referring to a bad place. What is accurate is that it is none of those. It's actually a person named Saul or Sheol. When you look over here, you don't even have to know Hebrew to see this. Look at the right side of each one where I've got the little checks and X's, and you'll see Sheol. And you'll see it every time. It looks the same, but it's translated different words. This is inaccurate. I put X marks by the ones that are incorrect. You can go through Blue Letter Bible and put in grave, pit, Saul, Sheol, hell, and look at these yourself. It's totally mistranslated. There is an actual word there, gabaru for grave, and baro for pit. So these are actually there. I mean, they didn't have to do this. You have to question why. It's like, it's a deception is what it is. Satan has got into the Bible, just like we have Lord for Yahuwah. Lord is a translation of Baal. So we're calling our Creator, our Supreme Being, Baal. And he says he hates that all through the Scriptures. I guess the only way you could accurately say that I have an accurate Bible is to study Hebrew and read it in Hebrew. Because we've been so deceived that you have to just about do a word study on every scripture you look at to know what you're really looking at. This was done intentional. This was to hide prophecy, and I'm going to show you that. And the prophecy tell us that Paul or Saul from the New Testament was the anti-Messiah. But we don't see it because it's been hidden from us. I hope this video helps people see, because this is major, people. It's not minor. This is major. I would study this out. You know, I'm not going to tell you to take my word for it. I'm going to tell you to do exactly what I did. Sit down, put the time in, and really look at this situation. Because I'm telling you the truth. The only way you'll believe it is if you go look at it yourself. This is one of the ways that I started discovering what was going on. This is called the Messianic Aleph Tav Interlinear Scriptures. I have volume 3. I want all 4 volumes. I can't afford it right now. I hope I can in the future. But this is where I first saw it. And I'm like, how could you do this translation? I'm really mad at the person that did the book. How could you do this translation and see this and still translate it wrong? I mean, wake up, people. What is going on here? It's like people are not even noticing. I don't know what has happened to our society. I guess it's just the end times. But it's like even when something is blatant in their face, they'll still deny it. Look at these words here. This is translated. These are actual photos out of this book. And the words are identical. Yet they are translated as different things. And some will say, well, it means both things. No, it doesn't. Saul or Sheol in Hebrew means to ask for or question. It does not mean grave or hell. It never has. But yet this is the way we're translating stuff. We're wrong when we do this. This is wrong. This is not what Yahuwah would want. He likes truth. He likes things to be exactly like he wanted them, not changed. Isaiah 43:27, and this is Young's literal translation. Thy first father sinned, and thy interpreters transgressed against thee. This is so true. This is what has happened. We've got interpreters transgressing us, and we don't even know it because most of us speak English. Until I started studying some Paleo Hebrew and regular Hebrew, I didn't realize this had happened. And by the time I bought an interlineary and, I'm real serious about studying and word studies and stuff, I'm seeing things that I've never seen before. And I'm not ignorant because I have nearly 3 college degrees, and I'm sitting here looking at this stuff going, there's a problem here. This is not translated right. Isaiah 38:18. For, and this should be Saul, does not thank you. Death does not praise you. Those who go down to the pit do not hope for your faithlessness. And that still may be mistranslated somewhat, but it's not near as far off as what we have in our scriptures. This is what most scriptures read: for the grave cannot praise thee, and death cannot celebrate thee. They go down into the pit and cannot hope for thy truth. There's a lot of changes there to what's actually there, because when you look at the interlineary over there, I've got it marked off. It's Saul. It's not grave. Psalm 6:5. Here we see Saul translated as grave instead of in the grave. It would be more appropriately rendered in Saul. When you remove the bet, which means in, the word you have left is Saul in Paleo Hebrew and Ancient Hebrew. So it should read, in death there is no remembrance of you in Saul. Who shall be he acclaim to you? Now, why is this important? The bet. The bet is in, okay? But the bet is an image of a tent. So it's telling you that you are in, the covering of Saul, or the tent of Saul, his house, his family. And you see here, when you look at the word Saul, you'll see that Lamed, which is a leader, and the Aleph, which is a strong leader. It's like all these words, when you go down and break them down to the Paleo Hebrew, you learn so much about the word. That little in is not just an in Saul, it's an in Saul's house or his tent. It's telling you that you're a part of his family. And you can see, again, this is not the word grave, even though most scriptures have it translated as grave. I mean, here's the typical translation of this verse. For in death there is no remembrance of thee, and in the grave who shall give thee thanks? So it's in Saul who will give thanks. It's like, it's just totally mistranslated. And that bet tells you that this is putting you under Saul's covering, not Yahuwah's. And looking at Psalm 6 in context, O Yahuwah, do not rebuke me in your displeasure, nor disciple me in your wrath. Show favor to me, O Yahuwah, for I am fading away. O Yahuwah, heal me, for my bones have been troubled, and my being has been greatly troubled. O Yahuwah, till when? Return, O Yahuwah, rescue my life. O save me for your loving commitment's sake. For in death there is no remembrance of you. Who gives you thanks in Saul's house, his tent or family? I have grown weary with my groaning. Every night I flood my bed. I drench my couch with my tears. My eyes have grown dim because of grief. It grows old because of all my adversaries. Depart from me, all you workers of wickedness. For Yahuwah has heard the voice of my weeping. Yahuwah has heard my pleading. Yahuwah receives my prayer. Let all my enemies be ashamed and greatly troubled. They turn back suddenly, ashamed. So in context, he's talking about those that are in Saul's house, his family, or tent, and there's not going to be any remembrance of them. And that he's not going to give you any thanks either. It's a prophetic meaning. And it even goes into the part about the adversaries and the workers of wickedness. You know, he said in Matthew, he tells us that, depart from me, you workers of iniquity. I never knew you, or workers of lawlessness. It's the same thing. This is a prophetic tie to that what Yeshua said when he was here. Psalm 9:17. What we have in the King James Version for this verse is, the wicked shall be turned into hell, and all the nations will forget God. Okay, I took this and I broke down the word. I looked at it in the interlineary, and it's a word that means into Saul, not into hell. The root of this word is Saul, not hell. The into is like, it's the hay and the lamed. It means to reveal something and a leader. So you know that you're dealing with Saul, and he's both something to be revealed and he's a leader. Hell in Hebrew is Genomi, not Saul. You can look at the spelling over here on the left. The two words don't even look similar. So this verse should read, the wicked ones shall be turned to Saul, and the nations will forget Elohim. So what does that tell you? That's prophetic. It's telling you that those following Saul are going to, will forget about Elohim. Then they reveal this man and this leader. You see why this is so important? It was done intentionally to hide stuff. Is what it was done. Let's look at Psalm 9 in context. Be gracious to me, O Yahuwah. See my affliction from those who hate me. O you who lift me up from the gates of death, that I may recount all your praises, that in the gates of the daughter of Zion I may rejoice in your salvation. The nations have sunk in the pit that they made, in the net that they hid. Their own foot has been caught. Yahuwah has made himself known. He has executed judgment, and the wicked are snared in the work of their own hands. The wicked ones shall be turned to the leader Saul, and the nations will forget Elohim. For the needy shall not always be forgotten, and the hope of the poor shall not perish forever. Arise, O Yahuwah, let not man prevail. Let the nations be judged before you. Put them in fear, O Yahuwah. Let the nations know that they are but men. Shelah. So he's telling us here that they're snared in a net and caught by their own foot. But Yahuwah has executed judgment. The wicked are snared from the work of their own hands. And what this is prophetic meaning is, the wicked ones will be turned to the leader Saul, and the nations will forget Elohim. So we missed the whole prophetic meaning of Psalm 9 by mistranslations. It was a warning to us to know what was coming up ahead. Psalm 16:10. The King James Version of this reads, For thou wilt not leave my soul in hell, neither wilt thou suffer thine Holy One to see corruption. Okay, let's look at that. In hell. It's a conjoined word, and the root of it is Saul, not hell at all. And there's a lamed there, so it's speaking about a leader. So how should this read? It should read, For thou wilt not forsake my soul to Saul, neither shall you suffer the Holy One to see corruption. Again, the subject of this verse is Saul, not hell. The Lamed indicates Saul is the leader of a place, not hell. Let's look at it in context. It's about running after another one that is not Yahuwah. This theme is over and over and over in the Old Testament, and it is related around this word. Guard me, O El, for I have taken refuge in you. I have said to Yahuwah, you are Yahuwah. I have no good apart from you. As for the set apart ones who are on the earth, they are excellent ones in whom all my delight. The sorrows of those who run after another are increased. I would not pour out their drink offerings of blood, nor take up their names on my lips. Yahuwah is the portion of my inheritance and my cup. You uphold my lot. Boundary lines have fallen to me in a pleasant place. Indeed, a good inheritance is mine. I bless Yahuwah, who has given me counsel. My kidneys also instruct me in the nights. I've set Yahuwah always before me, because he is at my right hand, and I am not shaken. Therefore my heart was glad, and my esteem rejoices. My flesh also dwells in safety. For thou wilt not forsake my soul to Saul, neither shall you suffer the Holy One to see corruption. You show me the path of life. In your presence is joy to satisfaction. At your right hand are pleasures forever. This is about choices. Choosing Yahuwah or choosing somebody else. And it's named that it's Saul. And everybody has, it's sad, but everybody has chosen Saul. Every video you watch, every Facebook post you see, it's all about Paul. It's not about Yeshua. And everybody's lawless. They don't want the law because Paul taught against it. Psalms 18:5. The King James Version reads, the sorrows of hell encompassed me, and the snares of death prevented me. When you look at this again, in the interlineary, it's Saul, and it's a leader. There's no way around it. Hell is not in that sentence. It should read, the cables of Saul surround me, and they confronted me into the traps of death. This verse, like the other one, is totally mistranslated. There should not be two strong numbers for the word at all. David is a type and shadow of Yeshua, and Saul is a type and shadow of who Saul is. Again, the subject of the verse is Saul, not hell. The Lamed indicates Saul as a person that is a leader, not a place. Let's look at it in context. I love you, O Yahuwah, my strength. Yahuwah is my rock and my stronghold and my deliverer. My El is my rock. I take refuge in him, my shield and the horn of deliverance, my high tower. I call upon Yahuwah, the one to be praised, and I am saved from my enemies. The cords of death surround me, and the floods of Baalia made me afraid. The cables of Saul surround me, and they confront me in the traps of death. In my distress I called upon Yahuwah, and to my Elohim I cried. He heard my voice from his Helka, and my cry went up before him into his ears, and the earth shook and trembled. Even the foundations of the mountains were troubled, and they shook, because he was wroth. Smoke went up from his nostrils, and a consuming fire from his mouth. Coals were kindled by it, and he bowed the heavens and came down, and thick darkness was under his feet. This is so prophetic too. It's like, I think that's exactly how he's going to return. There's going to be this thick cloud, and his feet are going to touch down, and there's going to be lightning and fire, and it's going to be very intense. But he's telling you here that the cables of Saul surround him and confronted him with the traps of death. And following Paul is the trap of death. Now we look at Psalms 33. The King James reads, O Yahuwah, thou hast brought up my soul from the grave. Thou hast kept me alive, and I should not go down to the pit. This verse is actually a Caliph reading, which these were alternate words were decided on. The words originally written as they were, in my opinion, should be used. And you can note on some of the Hebrew word studies, it'll tell you when there's one of these kind of readings and they were authorized to change the scriptures. I don't understand that, but that's what they did. When you look at the interlineary, you'll see that you've got from Saul. You do not have from the grave. Grave is nowhere in there. When you look at those two little Strong's numbers side by side, you see the same word. So what this should read is, O Yahuwah, thou hast ascended my soul from Saul, thou hast kept me alive, that I should not go down into the pit. Again, this is prophetic. It's about David and Saul, but it's also prophetic of the future. A lot of Psalms is prophetic, and people don't even see it. Here it is in context. In context, this is a person, because a place is named secondly. And you've got the Lamed, which tells you it's a person, not a place. A psalm and a song of dedication to the house of David. I will exalt thee, O Yahuwah, for thou hast lifted me up, and hast not made my foes to rejoice over me. O Yahuwah, my Elohim, I cried unto thee, and thou hast healed me. O Yahuwah, thou hast ascended my soul from Saul. Thou hast kept me alive, that I should not go down to the pit. And it would make no sense for that to be grave, even though the word is not even grave. But it wouldn't make any sense because you'd be talking of two places. The pit and the grave is one place. And it's from a person, not a place. Psalm 31:17. The King James Version reads, Let me not be ashamed, O Lord, for I have called upon thee. Let the wicked be ashamed, and let them be silent in the grave. Okay, when you look at what we actually have there, you've got the Bisham, and they're translating it in the grave. Well, grave is not there. Gabara is not, the word is not even anywhere in the sentence. So what this should read is, Let me not be ashamed, O Yahuwah, for I have called on thee. Let the wicked be ashamed, grow dumb and silent in regard to Saul. So this is very prophetic. It's like it's telling you right there that the wicked will be ashamed. They'll grow dumb and silent in regard to Saul. And they are. They don't see the discrepancies and the changes that Saul made to what Yeshua said. I don't think Yeshua would come and appoint 12 apostles, spend a year getting them ready, and then 15 years later come back and all of a sudden change everything. I don't see that happening. I think that the deception is really huge. Y'all can watch my other videos on was Paul a fake apostle, and then I've got some others on the historical content. But you really should watch those, because if you don't know and you don't see, your eternity can be at stake, because Paul taught a different message. And all you have to do to find that out is look around you. There are about 4 billion followers that think they're following Yeshua when they're actually following Paul. And if you'll join a big Facebook group, like for like 20,000 or 30,000 Christians. And every time somebody quotes Yeshua, somebody else will follow with, but Paul said, and you'll see it over and over and over because they use that to justify behavior. And it's just not, it's not right. Another good way to see it is look at Revelation chapter 2 and 3. Okay, you got 7 Asian churches. Those were Paul's churches. Why did Yeshua have to come back 7 years, come back after Paul was dead and gone and correct those churches? Because they got the wrong doctrine. He was trying to save those people and prevent them from not making it. Let's look at Psalms 31 in context. For my life is spent with grief, and my years with sighing. My strength faileth because of mine iniquity, and my bones are consumed. I was a reproach among all mine enemies, but especially among my neighbors, and a fear to mine acquaintance. And they did see me without, fled from me. I am forgotten as a dead man out of mind. I am a broken vessel, for I heard the slander of many. Fear was on every side. While they took counsel together against me, they devised to take away my life. But I trusted in thee, O Yahuwah. I said, Thou art my Elohim. My times are in thy hand. Deliver me from the hand of mine enemies, and from them that persecute me. Make thy face to shine upon thy servant. Save me for thy mercy's sake. Let me not be ashamed, O Yahuwah, for I have called on thee. Let the wicked be ashamed, grow dumb and silent in regard to Saul. Let the lying lips be put to silence, which speak grievous things proudly and contemptuously against the righteous. So what we see here is a request to let people, the wicked, be ashamed, grow dumb and silent in regard to what Saul is teaching, and let the lying lips be silenced, and all the grievous things that are proud and contemptuously against all the righteous. So it's the ones that are against the ones doing the law. This is clearly another prophetic warning about Paul. These parallels between David and Saul are parallels between Yeshua and Paul. It's the same thing. Okay, now we look at Psalms 49:14. The King James Version has, like sheep they are laid in the grave. Death shall feed on them, and the upright shall have dominion over them in the morning, and their beauty shall consume in the grave from their dwelling. This is totally not what we have in the interlineary. When you look at 49:14 down here in the interlineary, you see Saul twice, not grave. You cannot understand this verse with the wrong words in it, because it doesn't make any sense. I looked at this one pretty careful because it's confusing when you read the Hebrew. But how it should read is, like sheep they are appointed for Saul. Death shall shepherd them. They shall sway the upright ones until morning, and consume them, for decay is in Saul's residence. It's a clear warning about Saul, and that anybody under his house, his residence, is going to be consumed. This is really scary stuff when you look at it. And you can see Gabaru, the grave, is not in this sentence at all. but yet they translated Saul as grave twice. So this is why people don't see this. There's no warning, and there's nothing in the Old Testament prophets, the way it's translated, to show you what is happening. But it's there. Now we look at Psalms 49:15, and the King James Version has this as, "But Elohim will redeem my soul from the power of the grave, for he shall receive me." Shelah. Okay, when you go down and look at the interlineary, it's actually Saul again. It's not grave, it's not Geburah, it's Saul. So how should this be read? It should be read, "Yet Elohim shall ransom my soul from the hand of Saul, and shall receive me." Okay, let's look at Psalm 49 in context. "For he seeth that wise men die, likewise the fool and the brutish person perish, and leave their wealth to others. Their inward thought is that their houses shall continue forever, and their dwelling places to all generations. They call their lands after their own names. Nevertheless, man, being in honor, abides not. He is like the beasts that perish. This their way is their folly, yet their prosperity approve their sayings." Shelah. "Like sheep they are appointed for Saul. Death shall shepherd them, and they shall sway the upright ones until morning, and consume them, for decay is in Saul's residence. Yet Elohim shall ransom my soul from the hand of Saul, and shall receive me. Be not thou afraid, when one is made rich, when the glory of his house is increased. For when he dieth, he shall carry nothing away. His glory shall not descend after him. Though while he lived, he blessed his soul, and men will praise thee, when thou dost well to thyself. He shall go to the generation of his fathers, and they shall never see light. Man that is honoureth and understandeth not is like the beasts that perish." And what he's telling us here is that the wicked they're like sheep, and they're appointed for Saul. And he takes them into his house, his family, his residence, as his followers, and they will just be dead. They're going to die. This is clear prophecy. And when you look at the New Testament, it is very easy to see where this comes from. 1 Corinthians 9:11 through 12. "If we have sown spiritual good among you, is it too much if we reap material benefits? If others share this rightful claim upon you, do we still more?" It's like he was all about getting money. But what did Yeshua tell us when he was here? Heal the sick, raise the dead, cleanse the lepers, cast out demons. You received without paying, give without pay. So the doctrine is totally opposite. And this is very much a clear warning, a prophetic warning. Psalm 55:15, the King James Version. "Let death seize upon them, and let them go down quick into hell, for wickedness is their dwelling, and among them." Now hell, look at the two words down there on the right I have. Hell in Hebrew versus Saul. They don't look anything alike. This should read, "He shall lure them to desolations and death. They shall descend alive, for evil Saul is sojourning among them." And if you note the pronouns, they're even a male pronoun, he. All these are just totally not translated correctly. Now let's look in context. "Destroy, O Yahuwah, and divide their tongues. For I have seen violence and strife in the city. Day and night they go about it upon the walls. Therefore mischief also, sorrow are in the midst of it. Wickedness is in the midst thereof. Deceit and guile depart not from the streets. For it was not an enemy that reproached me, then I could have bore it. Neither was it he that hateth me, did not magnify himself against me, then I would have hid myself from him. But it was thou, a man, my equal, my guide, my acquaintance. We took sweet counsel together, and walked into the house of Elohim in company. He shall lure them to desolations and death. They shall descend alive, for evil Saul is sojourning among them. As for me, I will call on Elohim, and Yahuwah shall save me. Evening and morning, and at noon will I pray, and cry out loud, and he shall hear my voice. He shall deliver my soul in peace from the battle that was against me. For there were many with me. El shall hear and afflict them, even he that abideth of old, Shelah. Because they have no changes, therefore they fear not Elohim. He has put forth his hand against such as be at peace with him. He has broken his covenant. He's talking about those that are following Saul, that they have no fear of Elohim. And this is probably referring to the total grace message. Because it says, neither was he that hated me, that did magnify himself against me, then I would have hid myself from him. But it was thou, a man, my equal, my guide, and my acquaintance. So this is probably a dual chapter. It probably has to deal with David and Saul, but also the future. Psalm 86:13. The King James Version reads, For great is thy mercy toward me, and thou hast delivered my soul from the lowest hell. And this actually, when you look at this, it's like hell in Hebrew is not Saul. And when you look at the interlineary, you have Saul with a mem. Now what does the mem mean? The mem is water. It's chaos and mighty and blood. So let's look at this with the mem and Saul. That great kindness over me, you rescued my soul from Saul beneath. And I'm going to talk about this lowest word in another verse, because it actually has a different meaning also. It is like well, I'll just wait till I get to that slide to make sure I tell you exactly right. But it has a message too that's not really beneath like physically beneath. It's a different meaning. Okay, in context, Psalm 86. In the day of my trouble I will call upon thee, for thou wilt answer me. Among the Elohim there is none like unto thee, O Yahuwah. Neither are thy works like unto thy works. All nations whom thou hast made shall come and worship before thee, O Yahuwah, and shall glorify thy name. For thou art great, and does wondrous things. Thou art Elohim alone. Teach me thy way, O Yahuwah. I walk in thy truth. Unite my heart to fear thy name. I praise thee, O Yahuwah, my Elohim, with all my heart, and I will glorify thy name forevermore. That great kindness over me, you rescued my soul from Saul beneath. O Elohim, the proud are risen against me, and the assemblies of the violent men have sought after my soul, and have not set thee before them. But thou, O Yahuwah, art an El, full of compassion, and gracious, long-suffering, and plenteous in mercy and truth. O turn unto me, and have mercy upon me. Give thy strength unto thy servant, and save the son of thy handmaid. Show me a token for good. They which hate me may see it and be ashamed, because thou, Yahuwah, hast helped me and comforted me. So he's talking about being rescued from Saul. And this is probably David, but again, these are like dual prophecy things also. Psalm 88:3. The King James Version reads, For my soul is full of troubles, and my life draweth nigh unto the grave. And when you look at the interlineary, you've got the Lamed and Saul again. And grave is Geburah, not Sheol. So how should this really read? For my soul hath been full of evils, and my life draweth nigh unto Saul. So it's actually, that is the literal translation. Now, I put these out here so you can actually see, in this chapter, you have grave, Geber, and Saul. And they translated Saul to grave. But you can see here that both are in this chapter, and they're totally different words. I did this because this was a good chapter to show this. It's like it's just mistranslations. Psalm 88. O Yahuwah Elohim of my salvation, I have cried day and night before thee. Let my prayer come before thee. Incline thine ear unto my cry. For my soul hath been full of evils, and my life draweth nigh unto Saul. I am counted with them that go down to the pit. I am as a man that hath no strength, free among the dead, like the slain that lie in the grave, whom thou rememberest no more, and they cut off from thy hand. Thou hast laid me in the lowest pit, darkness in the depths. Thy wrath lieth hard upon me, and thou hast afflicted me, and all thy waves, Shelah. Thou hast put mine acquaintance far from me, and hast made me an abomination unto them. I am shut up, I cannot come forth. Mine eye mourneth by the reason of affliction. Yahuwah, I have called daily upon thee. I have stretched out my hands unto thee. Wilt thou show wonders to the dead? Shall the dead arise and praise thee, Shelah? Shall thy lovingness be declared in the grave, or thy faithfulness in destruction? Shall thy wonders be known in the dark, and thy righteousness in the land of forgetfulness? But unto thee I have cried, O Yahuwah, and in the morning shall my prayer prevent thee. Yahuwah, why castest off my soul? Thou hidest thy face from me. I am afflicted and ready to die, from my youth up. While I suffer thy terrors, I am distracted. Thy fierce wrath goeth over me. Thy terrors have cut me off. Thou came about me daily like water. They compassed me about together. Lover and friend hath put far from me, and my acquaintance into darkness. So this is just a prime example of the mistranslations. Psalm 89:48. The King James Version reads, What man is he that liveth, shall not see death? Shall he deliver his soul from the hand of the grave? Well, let's look at the interlineary. Grave is not there. Grave is Gebar, and it's not there. Saul is. So this should read, What man is he that liveth, and shall not see death? Shall he deliver his soul from the hand of Saul? It's a person. In context, if his children forsake my law, and do not walk according to my rules, if they violate my statutes, and do not keep my commands, then I will punish their transgression with the rod, and their iniquity with stripes. But I will not remove from him my steadfast love, or be false to my faithfulness. I will not violate my covenant or alter the word that went forth from my lips. Once for all I have sworn of my holiness. I will not lie to David. His offspring shall endure forever, his throne as long as the sun before me. Like the moon it shall be established forever, a faithful witness in the skies. Shelah. But now you have cast off and rejected. You are full of wrath against your anointed. You have renounced the covenant with your servant. You've defiled the crown in the dust. You've breached his walls. You've laid his strongholds in ruins. All who pass by him plunder him. He has become the scorn of his neighbors. You have exalted the right hand of his foes. You've made all his enemies rejoice. You have also turned back the edge of the sword, and you have not made him stand in battle. You have made his splendor to cease and cast his throne to the ground. You've cut short the days of his youth, and you've covered him with shame. Shelah. How long, O Yahuwah, will you hide yourself forever? How long will your wrath burn like fire? Remember how short my time is. For what vanity have I created all the children of man? What man can live and never see death? Who can deliver his soul from the power of Saul? Shelah. Yahuwah, where is the steadfast love of old, which your faithfulness you swore to David? Remember, O Yahuwah, how your servants are mocked, and how I bear in my heart the insults of many nations, with which your enemies mock. O Yahuwah, with which they mock the footsteps of the anointed. This is talking about the power of Saul and the power that he has to corrupt people. And what is it in exposing here? It's like he's talking about the children forsaking his law and not walking according to his rules. They're violating his statutes and not keeping his commandments. And he'll punish them with the transgression of the rod. Well, the rod is Yeshua. And he says right here, I will not violate my covenant or alter the word that went forth from my lips. Yet we're to believe in modern Christianity that, yes, they did. It's like nobody's under the law. And just because you're not a Judean does not mean you're not under the law. I'm going to show you the verses on that before I end this thing. Psalm 116:3. There's a lot of these. A lot. The King James Version reads, the sorrow of death compassed me, and the pains of hell got hold of me, and I found trouble and sorrow. Now when you look at the interlineary, the only word there is Saul. Hell is not there. Genomi is not there. But Sheol, Saul, is. So it should read, they enveloped me with the cables of death, the constrictions of Saul. I found trouble and sorrow. Psalm 116. I love you, Yahuwah, because he has heard my voice and my pleas for mercy, because he's inclined his ears to me. Therefore I will call on him as long as I live. The snares of death encompass me. The pains of Sheol, or Saul, lay hold on me. I suffer distress and anguish. Then I called on the name of Yahuwah. O Yahuwah, I pray, deliver my soul. Gracious is Yahuwah and righteous. Our Elohim is merciful. Yahuwah preserves the simple. When I was brought low, he saved me. Return, O my soul, to your rest, for Yahuwah has dealt bountifully with you. For you have delivered my soul from death, and my eyes from tears, and my feet from falling. I will walk before Yahuwah in the land of the living. I believed, therefore I have spoken. I was greatly afflicted, and I said in my haste, all men are liars. The nations will know that I am Yahuwah, the Holy One of Israel. That's a very important statement also. But this is clearly is talking about Saul. It's not talking about hell or the grave or any of those other words. Psalm 139:8, the King James Version. If I descend up to heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. If they wanted to use hell or Hades, the word would have actually been hell, not Saul. Genomi. That's what it would have read, not Saul. So when you look at the interlineary again, it's Saul. It's not hell. It's nowhere even close to the word hell in Hebrew. It should read, if I climb into heaven, there you are, and I am making my bed with Saul. Behold you. So no matter where you went, whether you were with Saul or whether you were in heaven, then who was there? He sees everything. Psalm 141:7, the King James Version. Our bones are scattered at the grave's mouth, as one cutteth and cleaveth wood upon the earth. Now, let's go down and look at the interlineary. It's got Saul. There's nothing there for grave or burial. That would be Gabriel, and it's not there. So this should read, like one splitting or one rending in the earth, our bones are dispersed through the words out of the mouth of Saul. Or it could also possibly be, our bones are scattered at Saul's mouth, as one cutteth and cleaveth wood upon the earth. So basically what it's talking about is that bones are dispersed at the words of the mouth of Saul. And I think this is a clear prophecy. Here we go in context, and this really brings it home. Yahuwah, I have cried to you, hasten to me, give ear to my voice. When I cry to you, let my prayer be prepared before you as incense, the lifting up of my hands as the evening offering, his conscience sincere. O Yahuwah, set a guard for my mouth, watch over the door of my lips. Let not my heart be inclined to evil, to practice deeds of wrongfulness, with men working wickedness, and let me not eat of their delicacies. Let the righteous one smite me or reprove me in loving commitment. Is it oil on my head? Let my head not refuse it. My prayer is still against their evil deeds. Their judges have been thrown down by the sides of the rock, but they have heard my words, for they have been pleasant. Our bones are scattered at the mouth of Saul, and one prods and breaks as one prods and breaks up the earth. But my eyes are upon you, O Master, Yahuwah. In you I take refuge. Do not pour out my life. Guard me from the clutches of the trap that you have laid for me, and from the snares of the workers of wickedness. Let the wrong fall into their own nets while I pass by. Further on in Isaiah 28, you'll see that this is actually was set up by Yahuwah himself. Saul is there for a reason. Those that are lawless, that don't care about what Yahuwah wants you to do, that think that they can sin and still fall in grace, are the ones that are following Paul. The ones that follow Yeshua are the ones that actually care what the laws are and want to follow them because they love him. This time we're going to be looking at Ezekiel chapter 31. There's like 3 verses, I think. It's just verse 15. And when we start, this looks really busy when you first look at this card I've made up, but I just wanted everything to be there for you to see so you can pause it and really look at it carefully. Um, the King James Version says, this is what this verse means. Thus saith Yahuwah Elohim, in the day when he went down to the grave, I caused a mourning. I covered the deep for him, and I restrained the floods thereof. And the great waters were stayed, and I caused Lebanon to mourn for him, and all the trees of the field fainted for him. Okay, now when we look at the interlinearies, and I put two of them up here, I just wanted you to see that they do the same thing every time. For the word is Sheol, or Saul, and they have translated it grave. And it takes on a whole new meaning when you put it in the right context. Now, there is a hay in front of the Saul, and the hay, if you remember when I was talking about it, is the little man with the arms raised up saying, "Look, reveal. There's something to see." It's like a key in to look for something. Is when you see the little man with their arms raised up, that's revealing something. Okay, so what is it revealing? It's revealing his name. Ezekiel 31:15 corrected would be, on the day Saul goes down, I will cause a mourning, and cover him in the abyss, and I shall withhold the streams of her. And I think her, this pronoun, is probably the church. And the vast ones shall be shut up and mourn, and all the trees of the field faint. Well, if you remember, biblically, trees are people in most symbolism within the scriptures. So he's talking about all the people in the field are going to faint. And this has to do with Saul when he goes down. This is an end-time prophecy. But you can see, just take your time and look, because remember, grave or burial is Geberah, and the word is not Geberah there, it's Sa'i, and Saul, and that's basically, hey, Saul, or reveal Saul. So it's telling you to watch out for this person. Ezekiel 31:16. I made the nations to shake at the sound of his fall, and I cast him down to hell, with them that descend into the pit, and the trees of Eden, the choicest and the best of Lebanon. All that drank water shall be comforted in the nether parts of the earth. Now, when we go down the interlineary and we look, they have translated this as hell. It's not hell at all. The words don't even match. It is Saul, and it's Saul with another hey. So that means reveal Saul. So it should read, from the sound of his fall of nations will quake. Those who descend with Saul shall regret in the lowest part of the earth, all the choicest trees of Eden and the best of Lebanon, drinking of the waters. And I chose regret because that word actually is what is actually there. When you look at Brown, Driver, and Briggs, it says to be sorry, to console, repent, regret, to be moved to pity, have compassion, to grieve. But basically it's to regret. Ezekiel 31:17. The King James reads, and they went down into hell with him, unto them that be slain with the sword, and they were his arm, they that dwelt under his shadow, and in the midst of the heathen. Now when you look at the interlineary, it says into hell him, and the word there is Saul. It's not hell. They do this over and over and over. The root word is Saul, and in English it is Saul and not hell. You can't make it anything else. They did, but you're not supposed to. It should read, They also will go down with Saul, the one slain with the sword, and they that were his arm, that dwelt under his shadow in the midst of the heathen. Well, this makes more sense now, because they were slain with the sword. The sword in most of the prophets is the word of Yahuwah. And in like Revelation, it's Yeshua's mouth, his tongue is the sword. So it's his words that are the sword. Trees symbolize people. We can see this in Psalm 1:1. He will be like a tree firmly planted by the streams of water, which yields its fruit in its seasons, and the leaf does not wither, and in whatever he does he prospers. Psalm 92:12. The righteous man will flourish like the palm tree. He will grow like the cedar in Lebanon. So there we see the reference to the cedar in Lebanon. Matthew 7:17-19. So every good tree bears good fruit, but the bad tree bears bad fruit. A good tree cannot produce bad fruit, nor can a bad tree produce good fruit. Every tree that does not bear good fruit is cut down and thrown in the fire. Now we're going to look at these in context. See, Asherah was the cedar in Lebanon, beautiful branches and forest shade, of high stature, and its top was among the thick foliage. The waters made him great. The deep gave its height, with the rivers running around its planting, and sent their channels through all the trees of the field. Therefore its height was lifted up above the trees of the field, and its breadth were increased. Its branches became long because of the many waters. As it sent them out, all the birds of heaven made their nest in its broth, and under its branches all the beasts of the field gave birth. And in the shadow of all great nations dwelt, and it was beautiful in its greatness, and the length of its branches. For its roots reached to many waters. Cedars in the garden of Elohim did not hide it. Fir trees were not like its broths. The chestnut trees were not like its branches. No tree in the garden of Elohim was as pretty as it. I made it beautiful by its many branches, so that all the trees of Eden, which were in the garden of Elohim, were jealous of it. So this is talking, Asher is a tree in Eden. So Asher is something that is in Eden. It's a person in Eden. Therefore, thus says Master Yahuwah, because you have increased in height, and is set at the top among the thick foliage, and its heart was lifted up in height, I give it unto the hand of the mighty one of the nations, and he shall certainly deal with it. I had driven it out for its wrong, and foreigners, the most ruthless of nations, shall cut it down and leave it. Its branches will fall on the mountains and in all the valleys. Its broth lie broken by the rivers of the land. And all the peoples of the earth shall come out from under its shadow and leave it. Oh, its ruin shall dwell all the birds of heaven, and the beasts of the field shall be on its fallen branches, so that none of the trees by the waters would exalt themselves because of their height, nor set their tops among the thick foliage, and that no tree which drinks water would ever be high enough to reach them, for all of them shall be given up to death, to the depths of the earth, among the children of men who go down in the pit. Thus says Master Yahuwah, on the day Saul goes down, he's telling you who it is, I will cause a mourning, and cover him in the abyss, and I shall withhold the streams of her, and the vast ones shall be shut up and mourn, and all the trees of the field faint. I shall make the nations shake at the sound of his fall, and I will bring it down to Saul together with those who descend into the pit, and all the trees of Eden, the choice and the best of Lebanon, all that drink the water, shall be comforted in the depths of the earth. They too shall go down to Saul with it, and those slain by the sword, and those who its strength shall dwell in the shadows of among the nations, to whom you are compared in esteem and greatness among the trees in Eden. But you shall be brought down with the trees of Eden to the depths of the earth, lie in the midst of the uncircumcised, with those slain by the sword. This is Pharaoh and all his crowd, declares the Master Yahuwah. What he's saying here is Saul is going to fall. And when he falls, he'll be in the abyss. So what does that tell you Pharaoh and Asher stand for? The anti-Messiah. This whole chapter is about the anti-Messiah. And all the nations are going to shake at the sound of its fall. And when he brings them down, those with him are going to the pit. And all the trees of Eden, the choice and best of Lebanon, all that drink water. Water is the word in the scriptures. They shall be comforted in the depths of the earth, and they shall go down to Saul with it, with those slain by the sword. So everybody slain with the word of Yahuwah is going down to the pit with Saul. It's pretty clear, and it's been hidden because of this mistranslation stuff. I know this is a lot to cover, and you may have to do this in several segments, but it's very important because it's like all these mistranslations have caused people not to see things, and to me, there's just nothing that's been worse, than finding this. Ezekiel 32:21 reads in the King James Version, "The strong among the mighty shall speak to him out of the midst of hell, with them that help him. They are gone down, and they lie uncircumcised, slain by the sword." Now when you look at the interlineary on this one, it's not hell there. It's Saul again. And it should read, "The strong among the mighty ones shall speak from the midst of Saul. With the ones helping him, they descend and lie down with the uncircumcised one, slain by the sword." So this is talking about mighty ones, which is important people that are with Saul are going to be laying with the uncircumcised and slain by the sword. Ezekiel 32:27 in the King James Version. "And they shall not lie with the mighty one that are fallen of the uncircumcised, which are gone down to hell with their weapons of war, and they have lain with their swords under their heads, but their iniquities shall be upon their bones, though they were the terror of the mighty ones in the land of the living." Again, when you look at the interlineary on this verse, it's Saul. It's not hell. So it should read, "And they lie not with the mighty, who are fallen of the uncircumcised, who have gone down with Saul. They have lain their swords under their heads, their iniquities are on their bones, for the terror of the mighty is in the land of the living." So this is speaking of Saul and the uncircumcised and those that are killed by the sword. And the iniquity is on their bones. Their sins are on their bones. Here we are in context. I want to say something here. It's like John tells us, "For many deceivers have gone out of the world that did not confess Yeshua Messiah was coming in the flesh. Instead they preached a Jesus, a demigod, coming as a God in the flesh, and the seal of the anti-Messiah." So you have Yeshua, but we have this Jesus character that was made up that's nothing like Yeshua. And that's what's happened. It's a deception. This lamentation for Pharaoh is not just Egypt either in this chapter, but the whole world. The entire world has become a part of the worldwide religion following the Antichrist rule. The time has come when all mankind shall know Yahuwah of hosts, and all those who took part in the hypergrace and the prosperity movements of the Antichrist and the one worldism will see their shame, and they'll feel the sorrow. This is coming. It's coming real soon. There's not much time left, really. This is the end time. All this unfolding and being revealed is Daniel's prophecy coming to light. And that's what it is. And that means it is for the time of the end, which means we're at the end. Ezekiel 32:2. Son of man, take up a lamentation for Pharaoh, sovereign of Misraim, and you shall say to him, you were like a young lion among the nations, and you were like a monster in the seas, and you burst forth in the rivers, and troubled the waters with your feet, and to muddy their rivers. Thus says the Master Yahuwah, I shall spread my net over you with an assembly of many peoples, and they shall bring you up in my net. And I shall leave you on the land, and hurl you out of the open fields, and make all the birds of the heavens dwell on you. And you, I shall satisfy the beasts of the earth. I shall put your flesh on the mountains, and fill your valleys with your height. The water of the land, and the flow of your blood upon the mountains, and the streams to be filled with you. And when I extinguish you, I will cover the heavens, and make its stars dark. I shall cover the sun with a cloud, and the moon shall not give its light. All the bright lights of heaven I shall make dark over you, and I shall bring darkness upon the land, declares Master Yahuwah. And I shall trouble the hearts of many people, when I bring your destruction among the nations, into the lands which you have known. And I shall make many peoples appalled at you, and their sovereigns shall be greatly afraid of you, when I swing my sword before them. And they shall tremble continually, every man for his own life, in the day of your fall. So they're telling you this Pharaoh, which is a prototype of the anti-Messiah, is going to fall. He was set up by Yahuwah, and he spread his net, an assembly of many people all over the world. And it continues, for thus says Master Yahuwah, the sword of the sovereign Babel shall come upon you, by the swords of the mighty men, all of them ruthless ones of the nations. I shall make your host fall, and they shall ravage the arrogance of the Misraim, and the host shall be destroyed. I shall destroy all its beasts from beside its great waters, and let the foot of man trouble them no more, nor the hooves of beasts trouble them. Then I shall make your waters clear, and make your rivers run like oil, declares Master Yahuwah, when I lay the land of Misraim waste, and the land shall be stripped, and all that once filled it. When I have stricken all who dwell in it, then they shall know that I am Yahuwah. This lamentation, and they shall lament her, and the daughters of the nations lament over Misraim, and over all her crowd, they shall lament for her, declares Master Yahuwah. So the sword of the sovereign of Babel shall come upon you. This is the Pharaoh, the Babylon. And the sword that lays waste is the sword of Yahuwah. It says Revelation, repent, but if not, I come at you quickly, and I will make war with them by the sword of my mouth. Revelation 19:21, and the rest were killed with the sword of the one sitting on the horse, the sword having gone forth from his mouth. That means it's coming from his words, it's his law. That's what's laying waste to everybody because they're not following it. The wrath has already started, people. We're in it already. I guess that's what I'm trying to say. People don't see it. They don't know it because it's not. When they see these chapters, they're thinking physical battle with swords and mighty men fighting, and that's part of that's conditioning. Movies and stuff, everything is about that kind of brutalness. What is happening here is a subtle spiritual battle that's going on. It's a battle where Yahuwah set up his foolish shepherd that he said he was going to set up in the prophets. And everybody's following exactly what he thought they would do. They're all following Paul. They're not following Yeshua. And one of the reasons is because all these mistranslations, nobody even sees it. They're not even reading that word for what it is. The meanings are totally off. I'm sorry I feel real passionate about this, and you're going to see why. By the time I'm done, you're going to see it. He continues on. And it came to be in the 12th year, on the 15th of the new moon, the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, Son of man, wail over the crowd of Egypt, and send them down to the depths of the earth, and the daughters of the mighty nations, and those going down to the pit. Are you more pleasant than others? Go down, be placed with the uncircumcised. In the midst of those slain by the sword, they fall. She shall be given to the sword, drawing her and all her crowds. The strong among the mighty ones shall speak from the midst of Saul, and the ones helping him, they descend and lie down with the uncircumcised ones slain by the sword. You've got Saul and the mighty ones following him that went to Rome, created the church, did away with Yahuwah's law. They did away with circumcision. I'm fixing to show you that right now. First, I want you to hear this verse from Ezekiel 44:9. Future prophecy now. Keep this in your mind. This is future. Thus says Yahuwah Elohim, no stranger, uncircumcised in heart or uncircumcised in flesh, shall enter my sanctuary, or any stranger that is among the children of Israel. So, uncircumcised is not welcome in Yahuwah's sanctuary. That's a scary thing, because Paul teaches against it. Genesis 17:13. Also, something to note is these verses by Paul against circumcision are calling Yahuwah a liar, because the entire scriptures from Genesis to Revelation are relevant, not just the New Testament. And that's where a lot of these Christian churches are falling down today. They stay in the New Testament. You go in, some of them even have nothing but a New Testament in the pew. They don't even have the Old Testament. That's like having half the word and not having the complete thing. It has to be a complete whole. It's like that puzzle I was telling you about at the beginning. Every piece has to fit. If it didn't fit, then we don't have anything. None of this is real if it doesn't fit. But it fits. It fits perfectly. It fits, as O.J. Simpson, it fits like a glove. I mean, every jot and tittle fits. Even the words of Paul are supposed to be in your scriptures. I'm not saying rip out his letters and throw them away. That's prophecy fulfilled. It's been fulfilled. Yeshua was real. He prophesied what would happen. It did. The Old Testament prophets testify to it. It happened. Now we have 4 billion Christians following Paul, not Yeshua. Genesis 17:13. Both he who is born in your house and he who is bought with your money shall surely be circumcised. So shall my covenant be in your flesh as an everlasting covenant. That doesn't mean it ended when Yeshua was crucified. No. Everlasting means everlasting. He would not have used those words if it was not everlasting. Exodus 12:48. If a stranger shall sojourn with you, and would keep the Passover to Yahuwah, let all his males be circumcised. Okay, now what did Paul say? Galatians 5:22. Look, I, Paul, there's the first mistake. I, Paul, say to you, if you accept circumcision, Christ will be of no advantage to you. Why not? Was not your Messiah circumcised on the 8th day according to the Torah law? Yes, he was. Did he ever tell anyone that the Torah was done away with? No. Galatians 6:15. For neither circumcision counts for anything, nor uncircumcision, but a new creation. Did Yeshua ever tell us that? No. He said you had to be born again, but you had to repent and be baptized and be born again. But then he said no, not one jot nor tittle would go from the law until all is fulfilled, and it's not all fulfilled yet. Titus 1:10. For there are many who are insubordinate, empty talkers, deceivers, especially those of the circumcision party. Why was Paul so out against circumcision? Because that's your everlasting covenant with Yahuwah. That's who Paul was. He was the anti-Messiah. He was destroying everything. The entire Old Testament, he was throwing it out. And this continues on. That's why I covered all the verses first, and then I wanted to look at the end context, because this is extremely important. This is your end time stuff. This is what you need to know right now. Ezekiel 32:22. Asherah is there in all her assembly, and their burial sites are all around her, all of them slain, fallen by the sword, whose burial sites are set up at the sides of the pit, and her assembly is all around her burial place, all of them slain, fallen by the sword, because they instilled fear in the land of the living. There is Elam and all her crowd around her burial place, all of them slain, fallen by the sword, who have gone down uncircumcised to the lower parts of the earth, because they instilled fear in the land of the living. And they bear their shame, those who go down to the pit. They have set her bed in the midst of the slain, all her crowd, and her burial sites are all around, all of them uncircumcised, slain by the sword. All of them circumcised, slain by the sword, that's the word. The everlasting covenant's been broken, so their soul is gone. For the fear they instill in the land of the living. So they bear their shame with those going down to the pit. In the midst of the slain, they've been placed. There's a mesquite and the Tubal, and all her crowd, and all the burial around, and them uncircumcised, slain by the sword, because they instilled fear in the land of the living. And they lie not with the mighty, who are fallen of the uncircumcised, who have gone down with Saul. They've laid their swords under their heads, their iniquities are on their bones. For the terror of the mighty is in the land of the living. And you shall be broken in the midst of the uncircumcised, and lie with those that are slain by the sword. Do you want that? I'm sorry, I'm going to break in here. Do you want that? Broken in the midst of the uncircumcised, and lay with the slain by the sword? I don't think so. There's Edom, her sovereigns and all her princes, who shall be given up with their mighty, and those slain with the sword. With the uncircumcised they lie, and those going down to the pit. They're the princes of the north, all of them, all of the Sidonians, who have gone down with the slain, because of the fear they instilled. And they are ashamed of their might. They lie uncircumcised with those slain by the sword, and bear their shame of those going down to the pit. Pharaoh and all his army shall see them, and shall be comforted for the host of the slain by the sword, declares Master Yahuwah. For I have put fear of him in the land of the living. Yet he shall be placed in the midst of the uncircumcised, those slain by the sword, Pharaoh and all his host, declares Master Yahuwah. Now Pharaoh is a type of the anti-Messiah in this prophetic chapter. But I don't think Yahuwah could have said many more times uncircumcised and slain by the sword. He made it very, very clear. And the verses that Paul said made it very clear that he was against circumcision. And then you have Ezekiel, Naaman, who have gone down with Saul. It's not Sheol. It's not a place. It's Saul. This is all prophecy. I'm sorry I'm so passionate about this, but it really upset me when I figured this out. Ecclesiastes 9:10, New King James Version. Whatever your hand finds to do, do it with your might. For there is no work or device or knowledge or wisdom in the grave where you are going. Well, when we go down here and look at this, we have Saul again. It's in Saul, not in the grave. Again, Gabara is grave. Saul is Saul. You can't make it something different. So it should read, all thy hands find to do, with the power to do, for there is no work or device or knowledge or wisdom in Saul, whither thou art walking. Now, I went and looked up this word and that they had down for where you're going, and it means whither thou art walking, and that's the way it's primarily translated throughout the rest of the Bible. I think they were trying to make it fit the grave thing, where you're going, but it means who you're walking with, who you're following, is what it means in Hebrew. It's like, what is your walk? What is your way? Are you following Yeshua's way and Yahuwah? Are you following Saul? That's what it boils down to. That's what he's trying to say. There's no work, there's no device, there's no knowledge, and there's no wisdom when you walk with Saul, is what he's saying. If you put it in layman terms, just common everyday terms. And here is Ecclesiastes 9:10 in context. All that your hand finds to do, do it with your might. For there is no work or planning or knowledge or wisdom in Saul where you're walking. I again saw under the sun that the race is not to the swift, nor the battle to the mighty, nor even bread to the wise, nor even riches to the men of understanding, for even favor to men of knowledge. For time and chance meets them all. For every man does not know his time, like fish taken up in an evil net, and like birds caught in a snare, so the sons of men are snared in an evil time, when it comes down on them suddenly. And this is the time we're in, the evil time. And it is coming down on them suddenly. Next one we'll look at is Habakkuk 2, verse 5. And the King James Version reads, Yea, also, because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home, who enlarges his desire is hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Now, when you look at the interlineary, the word as hell is as Saul, not as hell. So let's look at how this should read. Moreover, wine is a traitor, an arrogant man, who is never at rest. His greed is as wide as Saul. Like death, he never has enough. He gathers for himself all nations, and collects as his own all peoples. So this is talking about somebody taking what isn't theirs and being greedy and an arrogant person and a drinker. And it's not about hell. And it's saying that he is like, his greed is as wide as Saul, not hell. Now let's look at the context on this. Habakkuk 2. I stand at my watch and station myself at the watchtower, and wait to see what he says to me, and what to answer when I am reproved. And Yahuwah answered me and said, write the vision, inscribe it on the tablets, so that he who reads it runs. In other words, this is bad news. Pay attention. You want to run from this. For the vision is yet for an appointed time, and it speaks of the end, and it does not lie. If it lingers, wait for it, for it shall certainly come. It shall not delay. See, he whose being is not upright in him is puffed up, but the righteous one lives by steadfastness. And also, because wine betrays a proud man, and he does not stay at home, who enlarges his desire like Saul, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied, but gathers unto him all nations, and heaps unto him all people. Shall not all these lift up a proverb against him, and the mocking riddle against him, and say, woe to him who increases what is not his? Till when is he to load on himself many pledges? Do not your creditors rise up suddenly, and those who make you tremble wake up, and you be plunderer? Because you have plundered many nations, all the remnant of the people shall plunder you, because of the men's blood and doing violence to the land for them, to the city, and to all who dwell in it. And Yeshua gave us a hint on this, that this was going to happen. He said, I come in my Father's name, and ye receive me not. Though another shall come in his own name, him ye shall receive. Amos 9:2, the King James Version. Though they dig into hell, thence shall my hand take them. Though they climb up to heaven, thence will I bring them down. Well, when we look at this verse, it's in Saul. It's the beta, which is the tent. It's those that are under his tent or his family that are in his circle. It should read, though they dig into Saul's house, thence shall my hand take them. Though they climb up to heaven, thence I will bring them down. The beta indicates he's talking about Saul's tent or house. The root of the word is Saul, not hell. Even though the King James translated it hell, it's not hell. Let's look at it in context now. Amos 9. I saw Yahuwah standing by the slaughter place, and he said, strike the column head, so that the thresholds shake, and break them off by the head, all of them, and the last of them I kill with the sword. Not one of them fleeing gets away, not one fugitive of them escapes. Though they dig into Saul's house, thence shall my hand take them. Though they climb up to heaven, thence shall I bring them down. And if they hide themselves on the top of Carmel, from there I shall search and take them. And they hide before my eyes at the bottom of the sea. From there I shall command the serpent, and it shall bite them. And they go into captivity before their enemies. From there I shall command the sword, and it shall kill them. And I shall set my eyes on them for evil, and not for good. And Master Yahuwah of hosts is he who touches the earth, so that it melts, and all who dwell in it mourn. and all who come up from the river and subside the river of Egypt, who is building his upper room in heavens, and has founded his firmament in the earth, who is calling for the waters of the sea, and pours them out of the face of the earth. Yahuwah is his name. So those digging into Saul's house and becoming little Paul Christians, they're going to be in a lot of trouble, because that house is coming down. It continues on. Are you not like the people of Cush to me, O children of Israel, declares Yahuwah? Did I bring up Israel from the land of Egypt, and the Philistines from Kippur, and Aram from Kir? Look, the eyes of the Master, Yahuwah, are on the sinful reign, and I shall destroy it from the face of the earth, except that I do not completely destroy the house of Jacob, declares Yahuwah. For look, I am commanding, I shall sift the house of Israel among the nations, as one sifts a sheaf, yet not grain falls to the ground. All sinners of my people are going to die by the sword. And those who are saying, evil does not overtake us, nor meet us, in that day I shall raise up the booth of David, which is fallen down, and I shall repair the breaches, and raise up the ruins. I shall build it as in the days of old, so that they possess the remnant of Edom and all the nations on whom my name is called, declares Yahuwah, who does this. Look, the days are coming, declares Sheol, when the plowman shall overtake the reaper, and the treader from him who sows seeds, and the mountains shall drip new wine, and all the hills melt. I shall turn back the captivity of my people, Israel, and they shall build the waste cities and inhabit them, and they shall plant vineyards and drink wine from them, and shall make gardens and eat their fruit. I shall plant them on their own soil, and not uproot them any more from their own soil I have given them, says Yahuwah your Elohim. And everybody thinks that Yeshua came to, save everybody, and I think it would be, many are called, many are saved, but that's not what he said. He said, many are called, few are chosen. And what did he tell us in Revelation? Repent, but if not, I come to you quickly, and I will make war with you with the sword of my mouth. And he told us in Matthew 10:34, do not assume that I have come to bring peace on earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. He came to find the lost and offer repentance. But at the same time, the sword of his mouth is going to destroy many. Proverbs 27:19. As the face reflects the face in the water, so the heart of a man reflects a man. Saul and destruction are never satisfied, so the eyes of a man are never satisfied. The refining pot tries silver, and the furnace tries gold, but a man is tried by the mouth of his praise. If you pound a fool in the mortar, and a pistol amidst the grain, his foolishness will not turn away from him. Know well the face of your flock, set your heart on your herds, for wealth is not forever, nor the crown from generation to generation. When the grass is revealed, and the new grass is seen, and the mountain plants are taken up, the lambs will be for your clothing, and the he-goats the price for the field. And there will be goat's milk enough for your food, for the food of your household, and the life of your maidens. So he's telling you that Saul was never satisfied. Proverbs 1:8. Oh, and note, I did not go through and do the interlinearies on all of these, because I think I've showed you enough to show you that in these places where I'm saying it's Saul, it's Saul. My son, Hear your father's instruction, and do not forsake the Torah of your mother, for they shall be an ornament of grace unto your head, and a necklace for your neck. My son, if sinners lure you, do not be willing. If they say, Walk with us, let us lie in wait for blood, let us secretly lurk for the innocent without cause, let us swallow them up alive as Saul, and the whole, as those who go down to the pit. We shall find all precious goods, we shall fill our homes with spoil. Let your lot fall among us, one purse shall be to all of us. My son, do not walk in the way of them, hold back your foot from their path. For their feet run to evil, and they hasten to shed blood. For in vain the net is spread in the sight of every owner of the wing, and they lie in wait for their own blood, and they lurk secretly for those souls. So are the ways of everyone who gets unjust gain. It takes away its owner's soul. So he's saying that if you don't follow Torah, you're swallowed up alive with Saul and go down to the pit. Yeshua gave us some warnings in Matthew 13. He said, while his men were sleeping, his enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. And then he goes on further on down to explain. He said, his disciples said, Explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field. And he answered, The one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed is the sons of the kingdom. The weeds are the sons of the evil one, and the enemy sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are the angels. Just as the weeds are gathered and burned in the fire, so it shall be in the end of the age. The Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will gather out of the kingdom all causes of sin, all lawbreakers, and throw them in the fiery furnace. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun, and the kingdom of their Father. He who has ears, let him hear. Well, what did Paul do? He went around sowing, Ye are not under the law. And what did that accomplish? We have 4 billion followers not obeying Yahuwah's word. Proverbs 15:24 speaks about that. The path of life is upward to the prudent, that he may turn away from Saul, downward. Yahuwah will tear down the house of the proud, and he will set up the widow's border. The thoughts of the wicked are very hateful to Yahuwah, but the words of the pleasant are pure. He who is greedy for gain troubles his own house, but he who hates bribes shall live. The heart of the righteous ponders how to answer, but the mouth of the wicked pours out evil things. Yahuwah is far from the wicked, but he hears the prayers of the righteous. The light of the eyes rejoices in the heart. A good report makes the bones fat. The ear that hears, and a reproof of life, shall remain among the wise. He who ignores correction despises his own soul, but he who hears reproof gets sound heart. The fear of Yahuwah is instruction and wisdom, and before honor is humility. So he's telling us that the same thing that he told us, that those that have ears hear. We have to hear with our ears, and we have to let this sink in, and we have to realize that this deception happened, and look at these verses and do the word study so we know what he's telling us. Isaiah 14:9. And you look at the interlineary again, we have Saul. It's not Sheol. Saul beneath is stirred up to meet you when you come in. He rouses the shades to greet you, all of the he-goats, who were the leaders of the earth. It raises from their thrones all who were kings of the nations. So Saul is not a good person. Isaiah 14:11. There's no phrase to Sheol in this verse. It's speaking about Saul. This is not grave. It's the word Saul again. This pattern is everywhere you see Sheol. And it shall be in that day Yahuwah gives rest from your sorrow and from your trouble and your hard service in which you were made to serve, that you shall take up the proverb against the sovereign of Babel, and say, how the oppressor has ceased, and the gold-gatherer ceased. Yahuwah has broken the staff of the wrong, the scepter of the rulers. He has struck the people in wrath with ceaseless blows. He who ruled the nations in displeasure is persecuted, and no one restrains. All the earth is at rest and peace. They shall break forth into singing. Even the cypress trees rejoice over you, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since you were cut down, no woodcutter has come up against us. Saul from beneath is excited about you, to meet you at your coming. It stirs up death for you, the chief ones of earth. It raised up their thrones, all the sovereigns of nations. All of them respond and say to you, have you also become weak as we? Have you become like us? Your arrogance has been brought down to Saul, and the sound of your stringed instruments, the maggot is spread under you, and the worms cover you. So he's telling us that Paul is actually the sovereign of Babylon. He's the leader of Babylon. Isaiah 14 continued. How you have fallen from heaven, O Hallel, son of the morning. You have been cut down to the ground, you who laid low the nations. For you have said in your heart, let me go up to the heavens, let me praise my throne above the stars of El, and let me sit on the mount of the appointment on the sides of the north. Let me go up above the heights of the clouds, let me be like the Most High. Saul is brought down to the sides of the pit. Those who see you stare at you and ponder over you, saying, is this the man who made earth tremble, who shook rains, who made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed its cities, who would not open the house of his prisoners? All the sovereigns of the nations, all of them, were laid in esteem, every one in his own house. But you've been thrown from your burial site like an abominable branch, like the garment of those who were killed and thrust with the sword, who go down to the stones of the pit, like the trampled corpse. You are not joined with them in the burial place, for you have destroyed your land and killed your people. Let the seed of the evildoers never be mentioned. Prepare his children, this also means his people, for slaughter, because of the crookedness of their fathers, lest they rise up and possess the land and fill the face of the world with cities. And I shall rise up against them, declares Yahuwah of hosts, and I shall cut off from Babel the name and the remnant and the offspring of the descendant, declares Yahuwah. I shall make it a possession for porcupine and marshes of muddy water, and shall sweep it with the broom of destruction, says Yahuwah of hosts. And you can clearly see in this interlineary, it's Saul, not hell. The words are not the same. So, who is Hallel? Saul. Isaiah 14 continued. Yahuwah of hosts has sworn, saying, truly, as I have planned, so it shall be. As I have purposed, it stands, to break Ashur in my land, and tread him down on the mountains, and his yoke shall be removed from them, and his burden removed from their shoulders. This is the counsel that counseled for all the earth, and this is the hand that is stretched out over the nations. For Yahuwah of hosts has counseled, and who annuls it? And his hand is stretched out, and who will turn it back? This is the message which came in the year of Saul and Alhaz died. Do not rejoice, all you of Philistia, that the rod that struck you is broken. For out of the serpent's root comes forth an adder, and the offspring is a fiery flying serpent. And the firstborn of the poor shall feed, and the needy lie down in safety. I shall kill your roots with scarcity of food, and it shall kill your remnant. Howl, O gate, city, O city, melt away, all you of Philistia, for smoke shall come out of the north, and there is no stranger in the ranks. And what does one answer the messengers of the nation? That Yahuwah has founded Zion, and the poor of his people shall take refuge in it. This symbol I put up here is an ancient order of the spiral serpent, and you'll notice this is an occult thing in it. Actually, they put Yahuwah's name at the bottom of it, under the skull. This one is major. This tells you so much. This is Isaiah 28, verses 14 through 22. It tells you who Paul is and what he does. Therefore, hear the word of Yahuwah, scornful men, rulers of his people in Jerusalem. So we're talking about the rulers in Jerusalem. We're talking about primarily Paul and Peter and all those that were making decisions. We have made a vision with Saul. When the overwhelming rod passes through it, it will not come to us, for we have made the lie our refuge, and we have hidden in falsehood. So Adonai Yahuwah says, Behold, I place in Zion a stone, a foundation, a tried stone, a precious cornerstone, a true foundation. He who believes shall not hurry. And I will lay justice for a line, and righteousness for a plummet. And the hail shall sweep away the refuge of the lie, and the water shall overflow the hiding place. And your covenant with death shall be atoned for, and your vision with Saul shall not rise up. When the overwhelming whip passes through, then you shall be for a trampling to it. As often as it passes, it shall take you, for morning by morning it shall pass, and by day and by night. It shall only be a terror to understand the message. For the bed is shorter than one can stretch himself on, and the cover is narrower than one can wrap himself in. For Yahuwah shall rise up as Mount Peazim, he shall be stirred as in Gibeon valley to do his work, his strange work, and to perform his task, his foreign task. So then, do not be mockers, that your bonds not be made strong. For I have heard from Adonai Yahuwah of hosts that a full end is decreed on all the earth. This is major, because he's telling you he's setting up Saul, and people will make this lie their refuge, and they'll hide in the falsehood, and it's going to go around morning by morning, by day, by night, and it's a terror to understand, and this continues until there's a full end on the entire earth. And I think it's important to know that Isaiah saw all this. And I'm going to show you 3 examples of where he's telling you this is actually Paul from the New Testament. This is not just a word change. This is him telling you what Paul will say. And I think it's interesting to see in Galatians 6:14 that Paul said, But far be it from me to boast except in the cross of Master Yeshua HaMashiach, by which the world has been crucified to me, and I to the world. So he actually says the world was crucified to him, not to Yeshua, but to him. Now I'm going to show you these three comparisons, and this is important because this tells you exactly who Saul that he's talking about in Isaiah 28 is. Comparison 1. Isaiah 28:9. Who is it he is trying to teach? To whom is he explaining his message? To children weaned from their milk, to those just taken from the breast? He's telling you what Paul's going to say. And here in 1 Corinthians, Paul says it. I gave you milk, not solid food, for you were not yet ready for it. Indeed, you are still not ready for it. Now, I might note also that Peter uses this thing about the milk, but primarily Paul does. It's in Hebrews, it's in 1st or 2nd Peter, and it's in Corinthians. Listen to Isaiah 22, 13 and 14. And behold, joy and gladness, killing ox and slaughtering sheep, eating flesh and drinking wine. Let us eat and drink, for tomorrow we die. Yahuwah of hosts has revealed himself in my ear. Surely this iniquity will not be atoned for until you die, says Yahuwah of hosts. Isaiah is telling you that Yahuwah told him this is what he's going to say. It's been revealed to me in my ears, so I know. And this is what Paul says, 1 Corinthians 15:32. And what do I gain, humanly speaking? I fought with the beast of Ephesus. If the dead are not raised, let us eat, drink, for tomorrow we die. The same exact quote. And this is how many years later? Way later. 3. Isaiah 28:11 and 13. For by people of a strange lips and with a foreign tongue Yahuwah will speak to his people, to whom he said, This is rest, give the rest to the weary, and this is repose. Yet they will not hear. And the word of Yahuwah will be to them precept upon precept, precept upon precept, line upon line, line upon line, here a little, there a little, that they may go and fall backwards, be broken, snared, and taken. So he's giving you a clue what happens here. Now listen to what Paul, in the law is written by a people of strange tongues and foreign and lips of foreigners. Will I speak to this people, and even then they will not listen to me, says Yahuwah. That's not exactly what Isaiah said. Isaiah said they will do this and fall backwards and be broken and snared and taken. But Paul apparently didn't read that part. But there's 3 clear comparisons where Isaiah is telling you who he's talking about. Hosea 13:14. The King James Version reads, I will ransom them from the power of the grave. I will redeem them from death, O death. I will be thy plagues, O grave, I will be thy destruction. Repentance shall be hid from mine eyes. Now when we go down and look at this verse, grave is not there. Hell is not there. It's like they're translating it to what they want it to be, and it should read, From the power of Saul I ransom them, from death I redeem them. Where is your plague, O death? Where is your destruction, O Saul? Repentance is hidden from my eyes. That's because Saul hid the importance of repentance. Everything was grace. He even said that Yeshua would justify the ungodly. And Yahuwah says in the Old Testament that he will not justify the ungodly. That's an abomination to him. I can't remember the exact verse. I'd have to look that one up, but it's there. So he goes totally polar opposite of what Yahuwah says in the Old Testament and what Yeshua says in the New Testament. And we're going to look at it in context. When Ephraim spoke, there was trembling. He was filled up with Israel. But through Baal, he became guilty, and he died. And now they sin more and more, and they make for themselves molten images from silver, idols according to their skill, all of them work of craftsmen. And they say of them, let the men who slaughter kiss the calves. Therefore they shall be like a morning cloud, and like the dew that goes in early, like chaff blown from the threshing floor, and like smoke from the window. But I am Yahuwah your Elohim, since the land of Mizrael, and Elohim besides me you shall not know, for there is no Savior besides me. I knew you in the wilderness, in the land of the drought. When you were fed, they were satisfied. They were satisfied, and their heart was exalted before they forgot me. So I became like a lion to them, like a leopard. I watched by the way. Like a bear robbed of the young, I attack them, and rip open an enclosure of their heart. And there I devour them like a lion. Wild beasts tear them apart. You have destroyed yourself, O Israel, but your help is in me. So he's telling you they tossed him aside and built them a new Baal, a new image. That's exactly what Paul and Peter did. They went off to Rome, started the Catholic Church, built up a new Christ image, and it was not the Messiah, it was not Yeshua. Continues on here, Hosea 13. Where is your sovereign now to save you, and all your cities and your rulers, of whom you have said, give me a sovereign and rulers? I gave you a sovereign in my displeasure, but I took it away in my wrath. The crookedness of Ephraim is brought up, and the sin is hidden. Pains of a woman in labor shall come upon him. He is not wise like son, for it is not the time that we should delay at breaking forth children. From the power of Saul I ransom them, and from death I redeem them. Where is your plague, O death? Where is your destruction, O Saul? Repentance is hidden from my eyes. Though he bears fruit among his brothers, an east wind comes. A wind from Yahuwah comes up from the wilderness, and it dries up the fountain, and the springs become dry. It plunders a treasure of all desirable objects. Sharon is held guilty, for she has rebelled against Elohim, and they fall by the sword, and their infants are dashed in pieces, and their pregnant women ripped open. I pulled one of the verses from Enoch. Enoch also tells us about Saul. It's in all the prophets. There were other verses, but this one in particular stood out to me, so I pulled this one. Enoch 98. Woe to you who expand the crime of your neighbor, for in Saul shall you be slain. Woe to you who lay a foundation of sin and deceit, and who are bitter on the earth, for on it you shall be consumed. Woe to you who build your houses by the labor of others, every part of which is constructed with brick and with stone of crime. I tell you that you shall not obtain peace. Woe to you who despise and extend the everlasting inheritance of your fathers, while your soul follows after idols, for to you there shall be no tranquility. Woe to them who commit iniquity and give aid to blasphemy, who slay their neighbor until the day of the great judgment. For your glory shall fall. Malevolence shall he put into your hearts, and the spirit of wrath shall stir up, that every one of you may perish by the sword. Then shall all the righteous and the holy remember your crimes. So, he's saying the same thing I just told you in a roundabout way. He's saying your inheritance, which was Yeshua, was traded out for an idol. And they committed iniquity and blasphemy and built up this persona. And that all those that did will perish by the sword, which is the word of Yahuwah. And this foundation they laid was of sin and deceit. And it's going to consume everybody. I'm going to tell you right now before I read this one, you need to extract yourself from Paul. And don't be one of them that's destroyed by the sword. This right here should speak to your heart. I saw Yahuwah standing by the slaughter place, and he said, strike the column head, so that the thresholds shake and break them off by the head, all of them. And the last of them I killed them with the sword. Not one of them fleeing gets away, and not one fugitive of them escapes. If they dig into Saul, from there my hand does take them. If they climb up to heavens, from there I bring them down. And if I hide myself on the top of Carmel, from there I shall search and take them. If they hide before my eyes at the bottom of the sea, from there I shall command the serpent, and it shall bite them. If they go into captivity before their enemies, from there I shall command the sword, and it shall kill them. And I shall set my eyes on them for evil, and not for good. And the Master Yahuwah of hosts is he who touches the earth, so that it melts. And all who dwell in it mourn, and come up like a river, and subside like the river of Egypt, who is building his upper room in the heavens, and has founded his firmament on the earth, who is calling the waters of the sea, and pouring them out the face of the earth. Yahuwah is his name. Are you not like the people of Cush to me, O children of Israel? Declares Yahuwah. Did I not bring up Israel from the land of Mizraim, and the Philistines from Kephar, and Aram from Kir? Look, the eyes of the Master Yahuwah are on the sinful reign, and I shall destroy it from the face of the earth, except that I do not completely destroy the house of Jacob, declares Yahuwah. For look, I am commanding, and I'll sift the house of Israel with all the nations as one sifts a sieve, yet not a grain falls to the ground. All sinners of my people are going to die by the sword, those who are saying, evil does not overtake us, nor meet us. I reread this, and I put this back in here a second time, because this just struck me so hard. It's like, all the sinners of my people are going to die. Does that speak of a grace message to you? That hyper grace is okay, that you can sin and once saved, always saved? You know, I don't think so. I think what he's trying to tell you is you've been deceived. And everybody that's sinning, that they're going down, they're going to die. They're going to die by his word is what's going to kill them. It's not some physical big war coming. The wrath is already going. It's in full swing. Trust me, it's in full swing. You cannot watch a video on YouTube. You cannot look at a Facebook post that is not totally, almost totally Paul scriptures. Nobody listens to Yahuwah. Nobody. It's like they're all listening to Paul. And they're going down, because the sword's going to take them down, the sword of his mouth. I'm sorry, I'm real passionate about this because I see it coming and it's freaking me out, because I care about people, and people are going to perish. They've been perishing. This has been going for a long time. But he's coming soon, and that's going to be the end. There won't be a second chance. There won't be a chance to turn around and keep his Sabbaths and keep his feast and follow his commandments. There's not going to be another chance. Right now is your only chance. It's your chance to break away, to extract yourself from Paul's words, to look at what Yeshua said and what he said in the Old Testament. Because he said, the law and the prophets, they speak of me. He was Yahuwah. You don't realize it. If he wasn't, the whole house of Israel is doomed. They'll never see salvation, because he had divorced them. The only way to undo that divorce was to die and raise himself, because he won't break his own law. Okay, I'm off my soapbox now. We'll keep going. What is the belly of the whale? The stomach of Saul. I didn't see this for a while. I didn't see this until I realized that Sheol was mistranslated. Matthew 16:4. Yeshua told us, an evil and adulterous generation seeks a sign, but no sign will be given except the sign of Jonah. So he left them and departed. What did he mean? What was he telling us? An evil and adulterous generation. Aren't we constantly, well, when is the last day? When is he coming? He's coming back. There's going to be a rapture. And most of the rapture theories come from Paul's words. They don't come from Yeshua's words. And he said they're seeking a sign, but no sign will be given to them except the sign of Jonah. Well, what is that sign of Jonah? Well, everybody says, well, it's the 3 days in the grave. He wasn't in the grave 3 days. Take your scriptures and scroll it out on a calendar. I can tell you, I've done it several times. He wasn't in the grave 3 days. So that's not what it was. So what was he telling us? He was telling us, what is the belly of the whale? Where is the belly? Where is this dark place? It's in Saul. Let's read it. And Jonah prayed to Yahuwah of Elohim from the stomach of the fish. And he said, I called to Yahuwah because of my distress, and he answered me. From the stomach of Saul I cried, and you heard my voice. For you threw me into the depth, into the heart of the seas, and the floods surrounded me. All your breakers and all your waves passed over me. So I said, I have been driven away from your eyes. Would I ever look again toward your set-apart Haika? Waters encompassed me unto life. The deep closed around me. Weeds were wrapped around my head. I went down to the base of the mountains. The earth with its bars were behind me forever. But you brought up my life from the pit, O Yahuwah, my Elohim. When my life fainted within me, I remembered Yahuwah, and my prayer went up to you, into your set-apart Hayakah. Those observing false worthlessness forsake their own loving commitment. But I slaughter to you with the voice of thanksgiving. I pay what I have vowed. Deliverance is of Yahuwah. He is delivered out of the belly of the fish. Then Yahuwah spoke to the fish and vomited Jonah into dry land. You want Yahuwah to vomit you into dry land. That's what you want right now. That is the sign. Get out of Paul. That's the sign he was giving us. It's got nothing to do with the 3 days and 3 nights. It's got to do with the belly of the fish, the stomach of Saul. Here is a major message to us from the Torah, Deuteronomy 32. Give ear, O heavens, and let me speak. O hear, O earth, the words of my mouth. Let my instruction fall as rain, my speech drop down as dew, as fine rain on the tender plants, as showers on the grass. For I proclaim the name of Yahuwah. Ascribe greatness to our Elohim. The rock, his work is perfect. For all his ways are right ruling, an El of truth without unrighteousness. Righteousness and straight is he. A twisted and crooked generation has corrupted itself. Their blemish, they are not his children. Do not do this to Yahuwah, O foolish and unwise people. Is he not your Father who brought you, who created you and established you? Remember the days of old. Consider the years of many generations. Ask your father, and let him show you, your elders, and let them say to you. When the Most High gave the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the boundaries of the people according to the number of the children of Israel. For the portion of Yahuwah is his people, Jacob his allotted inheritance. He found him in the wilderness, and in the wasted, howling desert. He encompassed him. He made him understand. He watched over him as the apple of his eye. As an eagle stirs up its nest, flutters over its young, spreading out its wings, taking them up, bearing them on his wings, Yahuwah alone led them, and there was no strange mighty one with them. That right there tells you Yeshua is Yahuwah. He made him ride in the heights of the earth and ate the fruit of the field. He made them to draw honey from the rock and oil from the flinty rock, curds from cattle, milk of the flock, with the fat of lambs and the rams of the breed of Bashan, and the goats and the choicest wheat, and you drank wine and the blood of grapes. But Yeshurun grew fat and kicked. He grew fat. He grew thick. You are covered with fat. So he forsook Allah, who made him, and scorned the rock of his deliverance. They moved him to jealousy with foreign matters. With abominations they provoked him. They slaughtered the demons, not Eloah. Mighty ones they did not know. New ones who came lately, which your fathers did not fear. You neglected the rock who brought you forth. You forgot the El who fathered you. And Yahuwah saw and despised, because of the provocation of his sons and daughters. And he said, let me hide my face from them. Let me see what their end is. For they are a perverse generation, children in whom there is no trusting. They made me jealous by what is not El. They provoked me with their worthless matters. But I made them jealous by those who are no people. I provoked them with a foolish nation. For a fire was kindled in my wrath, and burns to the bottom of Saul, and consumes the earth and its increase, and it sets on fire the foundations of the mountains. I gather evils upon them, and I use up my arrows upon them. Wasted by scarcity of food, consumed by heat and bitter destruction, the teeth of the beast I sent upon them, and their poisonous serpents of the dust. The sword bereaves from the outside, and the fear from within, both young man and maiden, nursing child, and man with gray hairs. I said I should blow them away. I should make a remembrance of them, to cease them from among men. If I did not fear the enemy's taunt, lest their adversaries misunderstand, lest they say, our hand is high, and Yahuwah has not done this all. For they are a nation lost to counsel, and there is no understanding in them. If they were wise, they would understand this. They would consider the latter end. How would one chase 1,000, and two put 10,000 up to flight, unless their rock had sold them, and Yahuwah had given them up? So this is the latter end he's telling you. For a fire was kindled in my wrath, and it burns to the bottom of Sheol. Let's talk about that. It burns to the bottom of Sheol. Saul. What is the bottom? And is this hell? No, it's not hell. It's never translated hell. It's Saul. And this is totally mistranslated in the King James Version. I just wanted to show you this so you could kind of see. But I'm going to talk about this bottom too. What is the bottom? You see it here. For fire was kindled in my wrath, and burns to the bottom. It's H8482 of Saul. Well, bottom is not what you think, because it's kind of weird the way they translated this. If you notice the word bottom over here in the Chaldee, it's like it says here that gives you a little thing about Isaiah. What it's telling you is the word bottom or lowest that is in H8482 Takati, according to Isaiah 44:23, it is the formation of the members of Christ's mystical body. Let's read this. Sing, O heavens, for Yahuwah shall do it. Shout, O depths of earth. Break forth in singing, O mountains, forest, and every tree in it. For Yahuwah shall redeem Jacob and make himself clear in Israel. So what he's saying is, Yeshua's going to make himself clear. But then there is like a people that are under something else or under someone else. How do I know that? When I take this word, the Takati, and I throw it into paleo, I can see so much more than what I see just looking at the word. Of course, I've got the definitions over here, and it does mean beneath somebody or underneath somebody, but it's not the way they translated it. You don't get that out of that sentence because you get lowest hell. So you're thinking of a place. Well, number one, the word is not hell, it's Saul. And number two, lowest means underneath somebody. How I know that? The word, it is Yod, Tav, Hetz, Tav. The Yod is an arm or a hand, which means it's somebody stretched out, an arm to somebody. The Tav is a mark, and the Hetz is the tent. It's like the containment, and then there's another mark. So what they're saying is it burns to those marked of Saul, those that are under his tent. It's very hard because when I dig down in this stuff deep, I see so much more. So we're talking about those that are hidden in Saul, that are under him or following him, is what they're talking about. So let's read this and think about what it really means. For the fire was kindled in my wrath. It burns to those underneath Saul, and consumes the earth and its increase, and sets on fire the foundations of the mountains. I gather evils upon them, and I use my arrows upon them. So it sets on fire the foundations of mountains, mountains of nations. So what it's doing is it's consuming people of nations, is what it's doing. So he set this in motion, and this is his wrath. That's what I'm saying. It's already in motion. It's not something that's future fixing to happen. The wrath is ongoing right now. I went over this before, so I'm going to briefly mention it here. This is the importance of seeing the pure language of Yahuwah. Because when you look at Saul in Paleo-Hebrew, it actually tells you what it means is reveal the leader of sin. I mean, it's that simple. It tells you so much. If you're ever confused about what a scripture verse means, take the words that are bothering you, throw them into Paleo, and look at the meanings. It'll tell you right there, because he don't deal in confusion. He deals in simplicity. There's no confusion with Yahuwah. You want to know, it's there for you. Okay, now that we've covered what the lower bottom part of Saul is, it's actually his tent or his group or whatever you want to call it. Let's continue on with verse 31. And before I continue on, I'm going to read this from Yeshua. It says in John 5:43, I come in my Father's name, and you do not receive me. If another comes in his own name, you will receive him. And that's exactly what happened. It says, verse 31 in Deuteronomy 32, for their rock is not our rock. Even our enemies are judges. Their vine is the vine of Sidon, and their fields of Amorah. Their grapes are grapes of gall. Their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of serpents, and the fierce venom of cobras. Is it not stored up with me, sealed up in my treasures? Vengeance is mine, and repayment. At the time of their foot slips, for near is the day of their calamity, and the matters prepared are hastening to them. For Yahuwah rightly rules his people, and has compassion on his servants, when he sees that their power is gone, and there is no one remaining. Shut up or at large, and he shall say, where are your mighty ones, the rock in whom they sought refuge? Who ate the fat of the slaughterings, and drank the wine of the drink offerings? Let them arise and help you. Let it be a hiding place for you. See now that I am he. There is no Elohim besides me. I put to death and I make alive. I have wounded and I heal, and from my hand no one delivers. For I lift my hand to the heavens and say, as I live forever, I have sharpened my flashing sword, and my hand takes hold on judgment. I shall return vengeance to my enemies and repay those who hate me. I make my arrows dunk with blood, and my sword devours flesh, and the blood of the slain and the captives, for the long-haired enemy chiefs. O nations, acclaim his people, for he avenges the blood of his servants, and returns vengeance to his adversaries, and shall pardon his land and his people. Then Moshe came with Hosea son of Nun, and spoke all the words of this song in the hearing of the people. And when Moshe ended speaking all these words to Israel, so basically what he was saying was, it was me you should have been following, not Saul. Number 16, Korah's rebellion. Korah means to become bald, and this was the son of Esau. Korah rebelled against Moses, along with 249 co-conspirators, and were punished for their rebellion. Elohim sent fire from heaven to consume all 250 of them. Korah's Reubenite accomplices, Dathan and Abram, were also punished when Elohim caused the ground to split open beneath their feet, swallowing them up, their families, anyone associated with Korah, and all their possessions. The Israelites, who did not like what had happened to Korah, Dathan and Abram, and their families, objected to Moses, and Elohim then commanded Moses to depart from the multitude. Elohim smote 14,700 men with plague as punishment for objecting to Korah's destruction. It's important to have just a little background here before we start reading, because this plays into what is going on too. It's a foreshadow. And Korah, son of Ishar, son of Kohath, son of Levi, took Dathan and Abiram as sons of Elijah, and On, son of Peleth, son of Reuben. And they rose up before Moshe with some of the children of Israel, 250 leaders of the congregation, called ones of the meeting, men of name. And they assembled against Moses and against Aaron, and said to them, Enough of you, for all the congregation is set apart, all of them, and Yahuwah is in their midst. Why then do you lift up yourselves above the assembly of Yahuwah? And when Moses heard, he fell on his face and spoke to Korah and the company, saying, Tomorrow morning Yahuwah shall make known who is his and who is set apart, and bring him near to him, and let him bring near to him the one whom he chooses. Do this, take fire holders, Korah and all the company, and put fire in them, and put incense in them before Yahuwah tomorrow. And it shall be the one whom Yahuwah chooses is the set apart one. Enough of you, sons of Levi. And Moses said to Korah, Hear now, you sons of Levi, it is little to you that the Elohim of Israel has separated you from the congregation of Israel, to bring you near to himself, to perform service in the dwelling place of Yahuwah, and to stand before the congregation to serve them. And he has brought you near to him, and you and your brothers and the sons of Levi with you. Yet you seek the priesthood as well. Therefore you and all your company are set against Yahuwah. And Aaron, what is he that you grumble against him? And Moshe sent to Darth and Abiram and the sons of Elijah. But they said, We are not coming up. It is little that we have brought us up out of the land of the flowing with milk and honey to kill us in the wilderness, that you would also seize total rule over us. Also, you have brought us into the land flowing with milk and honey, nor given us an inheritance of fields and vineyards. Would you bore out your eyes of these men? We are not coming up. And Moses came very displeased and said to Yahuwah, Do not respect their offering. I have not taken one donkey from them, nor have I done harm to any of them. And Moses said to Korah, Tomorrow you and all your company shall be therefore before Yahuwah, you and they and Aaron, and take each one his fire holder, and you shall put incense on it, and let each one bring his fire holder before Yahuwah, 250 fire holders, and you and Aaron each one of his fire holders. So each one took his fire holder, and they put fire in it, and they laid incense on it, and stood at the door of the tent of the appointment, with Moshe and Aaron. And Korah assembled all the congregation with them at the door of the tent of appointment. Then the esteem of Yahuwah appeared to all the congregation, and Yahuwah spoke to Moses and Aaron, saying, Separate yourselves from the midst of the congregation, and let me consume them in a moment. Now, some background history here. Korah incited all the people against Moses, arguing that it was impossible to endure the laws instituted. He told them the following parable. A woman and a mother and 2 young daughters had a field, and when they came to plow, Moses told her not to plow it with an ox and an ass together, which was in the law in Deuteronomy 22:10. And she came to sow it. Moses told her not to sow it with mingled seeds, which is in the law in Leviticus 29:19. At the time of the harvest, she had to leave unreaped the parts of the field prescribed by the law. While the harvested grain, she had given the priests their share due to them. The woman sold the field. With the proceeds, bought 2 sheep. But the firstborn of these she was obliged to give to Aaron the priest, at the time of the shearing, he required the first of the fleece. That was in Deuteronomy 18:4. The widow said, I cannot bear this man's demands any longer. It would be better for me to slaughter the sheep and eat them. But Aaron came for the shoulder and the 2 cheeks and the maw. The widow then vehemently cried out, If thou persist in thy demand, I declare them devoted to Yahuwah. Aaron replied, In that case, the whole belongs to me. That's in Numbers 18:14. Whereupon he took upon the meat, leaving the widow and her 2 daughters wholly unprovided for. But everything was because Korah did not follow the law. But they fell on their faces. O El, Elohim of the spirits of all flesh, when one man sins, and you are wroth, are you wroth with all the congregation? And Yahuwah spoke to Moses and said, Speak to the congregation, say, Move away from around the tents of Korah, Dathan, and Abiram. So Moses rose and went to Dathan and Abiram, and the elders of Israel followed him. And he spoke to the congregation, saying, Please turn away from the tents of the wrong men. Do not touch what belongs to them, lest you be consumed in their sins. And they moved away around the tents of Korah, and Dathan and Abiram, and Dathan and Abiram came out and stood at the door of the tents with their wives and their sons and their children. And Moses said, By this you know that Elohim has sent me to do these works, and they are not from my own heart. If these die, as all men do, or if they are visited, as all men are visited, then Yahuwah has not sent me. But if Yahuwah creates what is unheard of, and the earth opens its mouth and swallows them up, and all that belongs to them, and they go down alive to Saul, then you shall know that these men have scorned Yahuwah. So, what the grumblers was with the law, and what Moses was putting forth that was from Yahuwah. And Moses told them that he was sent to do all these works. They were not from his own heart, but they were from Yahuwah. And if the ground opened up, and the earth opened and swallowed them up, and they go down to Saul, and that word over here in the interlineary is Saul, not Sheol, then you shall know that these men have scorned Yahuwah. This is a foreshadow. If they follow Saul, you know they have scorned Yahuwah, because Saul did not teach the law. And it came to be, as he ended speaking all these words, that the ground under them split apart. The earth opened its mouth and swallowed them up, with all their household and their men, with Korah and all their goods, so that all those with them went down alive to Saul, and the earth closed over them, and they perished in the midst of the assembly. This is a foreshadow of what's going to be the very last. Everybody following Saul is going to be swallowed up. And all of Israel who were around about them fled at the cry, for they said, Lest the earth swallow us up. And a fire came out from Yahuwah and consumed 250 men who were offering incense. And Yahuwah spoke to Moses and said, Say to Eleazar, son of Aaron, the priest, to pick up the fire holders out of the blaze that are set apart, and scatter the fire some distance away. The fire holders of these men who sinned against their own lives, let them be made unto beaten plates as a covering for the slaughtering place. So that's another foreshadow, talking about the slaughtering place. Because they brought them before Yahuwah, therefore they were set apart, and let them become a sign to the children of Israel. Eleazar the priest took the bronze fire holders, which those who burned up were brought, and they were beaten out of the coverings of the slaughter place, a remembrance to the children of Israel that no stranger who is not of the seed of Aaron should come near the offering incense before Yahuwah, and not be like Korah and his company, as Yahuwah had said to him through Moses. And Again, here's the interlineary on the Saul word, that it is Saul. It's not the pit, it's Saul. But the congregation of the children of Israel grumbled against Moses and against Aaron, and on the next day, you have killed the people of Yahuwah. And it came to be, when the congregation assembled against Moses and against Aaron, that they would turn toward the tent of atonement, and see the cloud covered it, and the esteem of Yahuwah appeared. And Moshe and Aaron came before the tent of appointment, and Yahuwah spoke to Moshe, saying, Arise from the midst of the congregation, and let me consume them in a moment. And they fell on their faces. So Moshe said to Aaron, Take the fire holder, and put the fire in it from the slaughter place, and lay the incense on it, and go. Hurry to the congregation, and make atonement for them. For wrath has gone out from Yahuwah. The plague has begun. And Aaron took it as Moses commanded, and ran in the midst of the assembly, and saw the plague had begun among the people. And he laid all the incense, and made atonement for the people, and stood between the dead and the living, and the plague was stopped. And those who died in the plague were 14,700, besides those who died on account of Korah. Then Aaron returned to Moses, and the door of the tent of appointment, for the plague had stopped. What he's telling us is, if we go out and we atone and we change, then the atonement for what has been done is forgiven, and the plague stops. But we have to atone. If we don't atone for following Paul, then the plague will not stop. And the only way it's going to stop is people like me speaking the truth, even when people will bash me, people will get mad, people will call me the devil, people will call me all kinds of names. But I'm telling you the truth. I'm telling you what the scriptures say and what they really say, not a mistranslation and an interpretation that is incorrect. This is all a foreshadow of what we see now. Paul was the rebel, and is still used to rebel against Yahuwah's law. And in the end, this is a foreshadow of the future, the people being swallowed up by Paul. And this is what Paul said in Galatians 2:16. Know that no one is justified by works of the law, but by faith in Jesus Christ. And we have believed in Christ Jesus, so that we might be justified by faith in Christ, and not by the works of the law. Because by the works of the law, no human being is justified. That is as clear a statement as anybody could possibly make, that you can't be justified by following Yahuwah's law. Yet, Yeshua said in Matthew 13:41 and 42, the Son of Man will send out his angels, and they will gather out of the kingdom all causes of sin and all lawbreakers, and throw them in the fiery furnace. So, not keeping the law is what's going to condemn you. And thinking that you are just justified by faith alone. Faith without works, as James says, is dead. It means nothing. But wait, I'm not a Judean. So what does all this mean for me? A lot of people are afraid. It's like, okay, if I don't listen to what Paul said, then I'm not grafted in, and I'm not a part of any of this, because this was for the house of Judah and the house of Israel. That's not true. The sojourner has always been accepted by Yahuwah. So whether you have any Judean blood or not, or Hebrew blood, doesn't matter. Do you love Yahuwah? Do you want to serve Yahuwah? Is he your life? Is he your number one? If he's not, then you're not there anyway. You do not need the words of Paul. For one thing, you wouldn't even know what to believe of it. He was the anti-Messiah. And he openly worked against circumcision and against the law, against the diet. So why would you want his words? They're not from Yahuwah. You don't have to be Judean to be a part of Yahuwah's family. You just have to love him. You have to serve him. And you have to obey him. That's the bottom line. Malachi 3:6, for I am Yahuwah, I change not. He's not changed. He's the same Yahuwah from the Old Testament. Foreigners and strangers who are non-Hebrews are included in the law. You see this in Leviticus 19:34. The stranger who resides with you shall be as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself. For you were aliens in the land of Egypt, and I am Yahuwah your Elohim. Exodus 12:49. The same law applies to the native as to the stranger who sojourns among you. Leviticus 24:22. There shall be one standard for you, and it shall be for the stranger as well as the native. For I am Yahuwah, your Elohim, your Yahuwah. Numbers 9:14. If an alien sojourns among you, and observes the Passover to Yahuwah according to the statute of the Passover, according to its ordinance, so he shall do. You shall have one statute both for the alien and for the native of the land. He's no respecter of persons. And if you read Ezekiel in the end times in the new Jerusalem, it's like everybody will be the same. There won't be any pecking order. Something is missing. Every time I listen to one of these prophecy preachers that are on YouTube and everything, they seem to want to skip a verse. And there's a reason they skip it. They don't want to see it. Malachi 4, for behold, the day is coming, burning like an oven, when all the arrogant and the evildoers will be stubble. The day is coming, and it will be set ablaze like Yahuwah of hosts, so that it will leave them neither root nor branch. But for you who fear my name, the Son of Righteousness shall rise in healing in its wings. You shall go out leaping like calves from the stall, and you shall tread down the wicked, and there'll be ashes under the soles of your feet. And on that day when I act, says Yahuwah of hosts, remember the law of my servant Moses, the statutes and the rules that I commanded him at Horeb for all Israel. Behold, I send you Elijah the prophet before the great and awesome day of Yahuwah comes. He will turn the hearts of the fathers to the children, and the hearts of the children to their fathers, lest I come and strike the land, the decree of utter destruction. If you don't memorize anything else, memorize that verse 4. You have to remember his laws, statutes, and rules. That's how he knows you belong to him. That's your Sabbath, especially, is your mark. It tells you when he says keep the Sabbath, that it's his mark with him. It's how he's going to distinguish who is his and who isn't. What I shared with you in this video is very serious. Please don't let it make you doubt Yeshua HaMashiach. He's very real. He loves you very much. I always debate with these things, and I didn't debate with this one as much because I feel like this is so important. It was such a mistranslation, and I hope I showed you enough scriptures to prove to you that it was intentionally done to hide who Saul was. Now, a lot of people will say, but Saul changed his name to Paul. No, he didn't. Go read Acts and look at Acts, and Luke tells you. Saul, also known as Paul, He was known by both names. He did not change his name. There is no scripture in your sephers that tell you that Paul changed his name. He never did. That is something they've just merely made up. Now, he tells you here, if you abide in my word, you are truly my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. This truth will set you free. It will set you free to know who Yahuwah really is and what he expects of you. We've been fed lies. Hosea 4:6. My people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. Because you've rejected knowledge, I reject you from being a priest to me. And since you have forgotten the law of your Elohim, I will forget your children. Don't let him forget your children. Remember his law. All his words are true. All your righteous laws are eternal. They're forever. Anybody tells you they're not, Psalm 119, 160. They are eternal. I hope you've enjoyed the video. I hope it doesn't distress you a whole lot. I guess it's both a blessing and a curse to see this, because once you see it, you have to act. You have to extract yourself from Paul's teachings and look at what Yahuwah really wants. But once you've done that, then you're walking with Yahuwah. You got nothing to fear. Your eternity. But a lot of the world will hate you. They hate me. They hate me because I tell the truth. But I'll continue to tell the truth, and I'll continue to keep bringing you the videos as Father shares the truth with me. Thus says Yahuwah, stand ye in the ways and see, ask for the old paths, where is the good way, and walk therein, and ye shall find rest for your souls. But they said, we will not walk therein. There's a choice. You go in that forgotten way that nobody's following, and you follow it, so you get your promised land at the end of your life. That's the deal. There's no other way to do it. I hope this video has blessed you, and may Elohim bless you and keep you. May Elohim make his face shine upon you and be gracious to you. May Elohim lift up his countenance upon you and give you shalom. Shalom, everybody.